What if you let go? What if you stopped managing everything? What if you stopped smoothing things over and stopped managing other people's emotions? Stopped the planning, the anticipation, the checking? Then what does your mind tell you would happen? Would it be that somebody would get to be disappointed? God forbid. Or would it be that you might lose credibility? Doesn't even bear thinking of, right? Or what if your house would descend into chaos? Then what? So even though you're not saying that to yourself aloud, even if it's not a conscious thought, it is somewhere in there, in the system, and it is influencing how you anticipate, how you plan, how you check, how you over-deliver. Am I right? So welcome to this workshop called Letting Go Without Falling Apart. And my name is Katrina Horn. In case you don't know me, I'm very pleased to meet you. I'm a life coach and my background is in positive psychology. And can I just say that positive psychology is not about making everything into rainbows and daisies. Positive psychology is the study of people who thrive. And to me, that is extremely valuable. So what we can look at in coaching is that, well, we are responsible for our lives. We were not all born under the same circumstances, and we really can't control where we were born or to whom we were born and all of that. But there is a lot in life that we can control and that we can take responsibility for. So if we just focus on that part and then look at what we can do, then life gets to be really exciting. And I wanted just to remind you why we invented life coaching. It is so that on our deathbeds, we won't end up regretting anything, regretting that we didn't answer enough emails on time, or regretting not having cancelled enough family time, or, of course, I'm joking, but really when we think about it, if we allow ourselves to be all of who we can be, then when our life ends, then I think we can just look back at it with a lot of satisfaction. Maybe we haven't been successful in all areas of our lives, but at least we can tell ourselves, I did my best. And that's really how I want to feel about it. So I don't know about you, but to me, that is really comforting. Not that I have to be good at everything I attempt, but just knowing that I tried, I really gave it my best. That feels really good to me. So if you're here live, feel free to use the chat. If you are watching the replay, you can still comment. If I'm being a little bit distracted by talking, I hope you can't hear somebody talk next door. But what was I going to say? If you are watching the replay, welcome. If you're here live, feel free to participate via the chat. I've got a lot of things to go through. So, let me just get my ducks in a row. If you're here now, can I just tell you that I've never met a person who desired to change who was unable to change. So you being here tells me that you are curious, and it also tells me that you've got a desire to change. And that is really excellent, because if you start trying, then you will succeed. You will succeed unless you give up. So I'm really here to show you how you can stack all the chances in your favor, really. How you can proceed in a sort of with a method, right? So it's not just about hoping, it's not just about trying, it's actually about having a plan and then following it. So yeah, what else can I say? I can say what we're going to go through. We're going to go through what it looks like when you can't let go. I'm sure maybe you are aware of it, but let me just show a few of the subtle ways in which we are holding on and not letting go, fearing that we will fall apart. Then I'm going to show you what will need to change. You'll have to create an intentional identity, and that identity shift can be really tricky. So I'm going to show you how you can do that, knowing that there are no quick fixes, I don't believe. I don't have a fast strategy that will just magically have you let go and dominate the situation, right? I don't have that right here, right now. I have got like a process that you can take yourself through, and that if you keep doing it, will get you the results you desire. However, this workshop will give you the method, it will give you the information, but as I like to say, information isn't transformation. So everything depends on what you will do with the information you've got here and how you then run with it. So right now I can create awareness around a few things with you. You can feel inspired, but then it's really over to you. Are you going to follow up on all of this? And when I say all of this, it's not huge, but really it's up to you. And at the end, I'm going to suggest that you consider coaching, and I'll explain to you what that would entail. So let's just dive in. Let me just remind you that if you are holding everything together, fearing to let go, it is working, isn't it? Because you are here. So you are holding things together. That can feel good. You are avoiding the catastrophe, but maybe you're also aware that you are in a sort of hyper-vigilant mode. And that is really what is not sustainable and certainly doesn't feel good to most people. But just notice that it is working. You have put this, holding it all together, because you were looking for a coping mechanism. And you are coping. So it is working, right? So anything you do from here on is to make things better, to see how you can actually change and get into a place that feels better for you. But just notice that you are actually on top of things, right? You are actually in a place where you're holding things together and your life is functioning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So holding things together is not a flaw, it's a strategy. So let's say that we often in our early life develop those roles where we feel that we're the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the achiever. And the reason why we took on those roles, without going too far into that, is that we felt there was an underlying need for safety or predictability, for love, for belonging. And so that's really why we developed it. And I just recently shared over on Insight Timer how I developed my coping mechanisms that were, well, we'll go through some of them, because my mum suffered from depression for most of her life. And so maybe you can think about, oh, in your life, this happened, or that is how I felt, or that is always interesting, but it's not noticing the why that will help you change. You really can change without knowing the why. So I'm pausing here a little bit just so that you take it in, because it really is so important to know that we don't always know the why. And sometimes I find that knowing the why is a bit of a luxury that sometimes we let that stop us, don't we? If we're being perfectly honest. So let us move into what it looks like at work. If you're unable to let go at work, it could be that you're overfunctioning. And by that, I mean you take on more than your share. So you're sort of doing all the things without being noticed. That is overfunctioning. You're doing more than your share. Could be, like me, perfectionism, right? Perfectionism disguised as professionalism, meaning that good enough is just not good enough for you. And you call that having high standards. Yes, I'm all for high standards, but not perfectionism. You might have difficulty in trusting others' pace or the way they do things, so you really find it essential that things be done your way. You can't let go of that. Micromanaging as protection. So you want to have your hand in everything. You want to be looking out for your co-workers, because If something goes wrong, you might be blamed. And being blamed is something you want to avoid at all costs. So even when you try to rest, you could be completely unable to switch off, always thinking about the next thing. Oh, there's this to be done. Oh, if I just get ahead with this, like, I'm sure you know this. I'm doing that so often. Oh, let me just do this because then I don't have to do it on Saturday and then I can do this, blah, blah, blah. Boring, 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 because there will always be more work. Like there will always be more emails to answer. There will always be more things to manage, right? That we will never run out of that. So there will always be more. And your identity has been tied up to your productivity, to what you deliver. And that is often in quantity. So that's how it could be showing up for you at work, this inability to let go because you fear the consequences. And maybe even the consequences, you're afraid even to think about them. Like I said a little humorously at the beginning that sometimes actually the consequences are not that bad. But we've just never stopped to explore. So in your relationships, this might show up as managing emotional climates. Like I got very used to this as a child, just, watching how I was behaving and what I was doing, what I was like keeping a smile on my face because otherwise my mum might be upset. And I didn't want that to happen if I could avoid it. And so when we are with people, we sort of elect ourselves the chief ambience manager. Like if somebody is upset, we have to smooth it over. We have to prop them up. Or if somebody's the atmosphere is getting a little bit tense, then we have to come in and calm things down. I'm sure you know what I mean. Let me look at the chat. Yeah. Hypervigilance. Yeah. I sometimes created the belief that I had to look like, yeah, I was always doing something productive. Otherwise, there'd be consequences. Yes. Me too, Jennifer. Me too. Because if I wasn't doing anything, my mum would find something for me to do. And that wasn't fun, let me tell you. Caretaking disguised as love. I'm sure many of you can resonate with this, as they say in the States. Like, yes, let me just manage everything for you so that I become indispensable. Avoiding vulnerability, meaning you can't ask for help because then you would be weak, wouldn't you? I mean, it's weakness to ask for help. Like, you're on top of it, right? You've got this. Could also be that in your relationship, you need a lot of reassurance or certainty. So you're sort of in that needy position where you're asking people to validate you all the time, and people really don't like that. People pleasing as a protection, and that used to be me too. Like if I could make myself liked, if I could be bland enough so that I could fit in everywhere, then it must mean that everybody would like me. And if everybody liked me, I would be safe. Let me know if that rings a bell for anybody. Right? I think I'm not the only one to be a professional people pleaser here. And it's really, really detrimental to our well-being. Yes, I get a definitely yes. So, moving on in rest, let's just briefly look at rest. You plan rest like it's another task. Like, okay, so on Saturday I'm resting. Let me book in a spa experience and then I'll make sure to go and enjoy some wholesome shopping and blah, blah, blah. And you've got the whole thing laid out. And the only thing you don't do is rest because rest feels a little bit dangerous. It feels a little bit like laziness, or it feels a little bit, right? You rest only when everything is done. That's me. Yes, let me get this done. Then I don't have to do it later. And let me get that done. But things never, I mean, we never run out of things to do we? Feeling guilty or restless when you're doing nothing. And I talk to a lot of women who feel guilty even when they're having a shower. Like, how did we get here? How did we get here? Let alone putting your feet up and reading a book. Like, Wow. You could be using control to manage emotions, meaning you don't want to know anything about your emotions. Let's just stuff them down. Let's not address them, and let's just indulge. Let's overeat, overshop, overscroll, whatever it is, so that we keep our emotions under control. And then we confuse this control with safety. We link us being safe to us being able to control a situation. And that is a very dangerous place to be, because many things we can't control. We really can't. So let's look at how we can let go, right? We don't want to be functioning like this. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve people around us. It is a misconception. And we need to put our idea of safety somewhere completely different. And I suggest, instead of putting our idea of safety in controlling, we put it in our ability to handle what comes our way. And that's really what we're going to enforce here. So maybe already you can sort of let your shoulders drop and just breathe a little lighter, knowing that your safety is not in control. In fact, your desire to control what you cannot control is contributing to this idea that you could fall apart. So let me talk to you about identity for a moment. There are three parts to your identity, and this is what we'll be working with, because if you want to create permanent change, you have to work with all three of them. So what we sometimes do is we change a little bit in one of these subsections. And then when we stop focusing there, boom, we just revert to how we always were, like in the past. So we really need to work on our perceived identity, or I call that our current self, how we see ourselves. So you could be seeing yourself as a dutiful mother. You've got 3 children, you live in Toronto, you like pizza, you go dancing every Friday with your husband, whatever. You've got this identity that you are attached to. So not good, not bad. It's just like, this is how you identify. So you identify more or less strongly with it, but that's a whole other subject. Then you've got your mind and subconscious. And for today, well, we're going to have a little dialogue between the two. What we believe, our thoughts, what we really believe, what we know we believe, and then everything that we don't know we believe, or we don't know that we don't believe, if you see what I mean. It's all those hidden things that we are not always aware of, well, rarely aware of. And then we've got our nervous system, our emotional body. So let's just give an example so that it speaks to you, so it's not all abstract. Let's say that your current self is the reliable one. So God forbid you sometimes drop the ball. That would be a disaster, right? Because you are the reliable one. If all of a sudden you were not reliable in a situation, well, that would threaten your identity, because you identify with being the reliable one. Then your mind or subconscious, or both of them, would be saying something. It could be, if I don't do it, it won't get done. So I better take over. I can't let go. Your emotional body, well, you're the go-to person, and that feels really good, like the safe pair of hands you can be depended on. Ah, here's my value, right? Oh, I'm so valuable. I can be depended on. People rely on you. Great. But it's really exhausting to keep proving every time I have to show that I am the reliable one. It's not sustainable. So what we want to do here, when we want to change our self-concept, is that we want to go directly into something that feels really super duper good. And I'm pausing a little bit here for you to reflect. right? Can you recognize that? I don't want to let go of being the reliable one because, well, if I do let go of that, I want to be the one in charge, or I want to be something that I'm not yet. And that doesn't work. And that's why we have to be okay with this discomfort before change zone that we have to enter. And we can make it last forever, or we can make it really short. But then many people I work with, they are in this discomfort zone and they're making it mean that there's something wrong. Because they try to go from the reliable one to the grounded one, and it didn't work. They tried to let go, but then things didn't get done, and they didn't like the consequences at all. And so they made that mean, oh, you see, I can't let go. I can't be somebody else and the reliable one because there's nobody there to take over. So this is what we will have to deal with. Our current self is going to ask, well, who am I if I'm not the reliable one? What's my value if it's not in being reliable? And that's that feels really uncertain, doesn't it? Feels really insecure. So you're the peaceful, trusting one, yes. So when I feel anxious, uncertain, uncomfortable, you are wrong. Bingo. Exactly. Exactly. That's an identity crisis, right? So in our subconscious or conscious minds, we're thinking it might not get done. And then I'll lose the credibility, the respect, and all of that. And who would want that? Like, it's so dangerous, this zone. And then we feel confused, nervous, anxious, and uncertain, right? And we don't want to stay in those feelings. That is so, so horrible. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's revert back to who we've always been. That feels safe. And we have got this negative bias in our minds where we prefer, I mean, this sounds crazy, but this is how we work. We prefer something negative that we know, that we can trust, and we know that we can do life here, rather than an uncertain positive. So maybe you prefer thinking that, what can I take? I'm shy. I'm shy, and this prevents me from going out and meeting my ideal partner in life. That could be something that is preferable to revert to I'm shy, because you know it, you've done it, you know you can do it, you can survive there. It feels safe. And our mind will go there rather to, oh, what if I become unshy? What if I become actually approachable? What if I like speaking with other people? What if I enjoy connection and all of that? That doesn't feel like certain because I'm here in confusion, nervousness, anxiety, and all of that. So of course you don't want to go out and do it, right? You want to revert back. We prefer this negative certainty to a positive possibility, if I can say it like that. Does that make sense? Stop me if it doesn't, right? Just stop me. So what we have to do here is to create an intentional identity. Like we really have to get our thinking caps on. I like to think more about feeling caps really, and find out who it is we want to be. Yes, Nabila, it is true, isn't it? We can recognize it. There's no point in denying it. Let's just recognize it. So when we go about thinking about this new self, and I will give you a method for this, we have to just sort of shoot for the stars. Like, if we want to refer back to something we were before, well, then we'll just be creating more of our past, right? And what we're looking here is to really shift out to something unknown. We want to create that person you want to be. I like to say personality isn't permanent because I really believe that you can be who you want to be. It's a matter of choice. And then following who you want to be, then who do you want to be? And that's really a lot of the work I do with my clients is right here. So let's just dive into it. Maybe instead of being that reliable one, you want to be the grounded leader. You want to be the trust builder. You want to be the creative collaborator at work, the calm influencer, the wise observer, or the spacious thinker, the present professional, right? And of course, you will have to flesh this out. You will have to be really precise, and I'm going to explain that later, because to be able to talk to your subconscious doesn't really work in concepts. It wants some meat on the bones, right? It wants to get to grips with it. So let's say you have decided this is my new self. Well, then what about your mind, the part you can influence, and how can you get in touch? Well, I'll talk about that later, perhaps, how you can actually speak to the subconscious. But let's say you transfer or transform your beliefs before into I can trust others to rise to their responsibility. If you can really believe that to be true, well, that means you can let go, doesn't it? If things don't have to be done your way, then what? They might work out well. If you could believe that, then you could let go too. If shared responsibility creates stronger results, well, maybe you could be open to sharing. Maybe you could let go of that pressure of having to hold it all, that over functioning. If you could believe I'm safe even when I'm not in control, then you could let go of so much, couldn't you? Wouldn't that be lovely? So here are the feelings we are aiming for in your emotional body. You could start feeling grounded and valued, at ease in your competence, connected rather than burdened, free to focus on what truly matters, calm and confident. Oh, let me not recap right now because I haven't finished the exercise with you. But can you see how you have to influence all the three parts of you? And so how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we create that change? That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? So let's grab a piece of paper. If you're here on the replay, you can just go ahead and pause me from time to time and do the exercise real time. And if you're here live, well, you can do some of it, but you might want to go back to it. You might want to go back to it to deepen it for yourself. On your piece of paper, write down a few of the things that identify you as you are right now. So for me, that would be I'm Katrina. I live in France. I'm a life coach. I'm married. Well, let me just say my values are beauty, freedom, connection. You can go as deep as you want to. My preferences are, and you can list them. And so when you think about, oh, who do I identify as? Let's make another list and let's look at what do you like about that? What do you like? Maybe you like the fact that you like dancing. Feel free to share in the chat if that feels comfortable. So maybe you like dancing. Maybe you really enjoy the fact that you're open-minded. Maybe you can find a lot of things that you really enjoy about yourself. Like, I like to own that I value beauty. I didn't always, but now I'm really, really pleased that I am owning it. I'm really pleased that I'm willing to go really deep. I'm really willing to question most things about myself to find out whether I want to change them or not. I'm really grateful to myself that I started my own company. So for you, what is it for you? Let me have a look at the chat. I'm the peaceful, sorry, yeah. Peaceful, open, funny. Yes. I love how much I love and value beauty. Yes. Excellent. So when we create our new identity, it's not about throwing out everything and starting afresh. Like that could appeal to some of us. It might not appeal to all of us. Like in my life, I've emigrated twice to countries where I didn't quite speak the language. And that is sort of a giant leap. And it supported me in changing quicker. So that's why I did it. Like if you're in a completely new place, you don't have your friends or family around you, you don't have your usual surroundings, everything is new. To me, that is really fertile ground for change. I enjoy that like massively. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, is it? And that is okay, because fortunately, we're not all the same. But let's look at how you could start to change. And let's just look at some of the things you could actually let go of. So if you start thinking about that new self of yours, what do you want to add to all of the things you already adore about your current self? What do you want to add to that? Can you think of anything? I think for me, like something I would really like to add more of is I want to be even more self-loving. I want to perhaps be able to give myself even more permission to just be myself. I want to let go of any thoughts about things having to be perfect. I want to believe much more that I'm at my best when I'm not making sure everything is perfect, right? I want to really dial up the volume of I am enough as I am. So I'm sort of shifting my identity. Can you feel that? By turning up the volume of some of the things I love already about myself, and then I can bring in new things. And then we go into, of course, you will need a little bit more time than we've got here, but then you would be going into what your mind would be thinking about it. But let me give you a sort of perhaps well, one of the examples that clients often come to me with is that they have got a very strong lack mindset. So they are focused on lack. And where they want to be is, of course, in feeling abundant, or how I like to say it is overflow. I like the idea of overflow. That's my take on it. But all of that is just too abstract for your subconscious to get any to grips with. It needs facts, it needs something tangible. It really needs for it to change to that you go out of concepts and you go into specificity. So when we work on I don't feel worthy, we can keep working on that as long as we want, as long as we haven't got any specific examples of how that plays out in life, what that actually looks like. You can't change it. We can't change from a conceptual standpoint. We can only change in the nitty-gritty. It's like having a car that's not working. Like you could go to the garage and say, it's not working. And he would look at it and say, yeah, it's really not working. Not working at all. Let's get a new one, right? Or whatever. He will have to open like the cap of the engine and you have to look into the engine and fix it, right? you have to get really specific on what it is that's not working. And that's how we change it. So when you've got this idea that you are focused on lack and really what you would love to change into is an abundant mindset, is you have to get really specific. And then you have to ask your conscious mind, like your intellect, okay, so what would that look like to feel abundant or to feel that overflow in my life? What would that look like? And then, of course, we go into our past and say, oh, yes, it's true that when I was working in publishing, I was making a lot of money. Yeah, that's true. So we go in and find all these examples of how we were making more money and how we were able to spend it and all the lovely things, holidays or vacations we went on and all of that from the past. And the thing is that if we want something new, we can't really get there with examples from the past. What they do when we bring up those examples from our past is that they speak to that sort of nervous body of ours, that emotional body. So it does calm us down because, oh yes, it's true. I have experienced abundance in the past. I have been whatever the examples are, but we also have to tap in to the inspiration we get from other people who have done or who are or have what we want. So we can't just satisfy ourselves with looking into our past for examples. We have to get some external, tangible things into our awareness. So we can do that with our intellectual mind, can't we? Like I've got some exercises I do with my clients, like where we get really curious about what we would really want. And that's fantastic. So you bring them into your consciousness and it's all good. And you say, okay, this is what I want. But then when you listen to your subconscious, it comes up and says, excuse me, we're still in lack because remember you wanted to book that cruise on the Mediterranean and we can't afford it. Do you remember that bag? So we can't afford it. We can't afford it. And now you've got this dialogue going between your conscious and your subconscious, and they can't agree. And how do you think you're feeling? You're feeling confused, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling all of those things, aren't you? You're sitting there not feeling good. So much better just to tell yourself, can't be done. Let me revert back to lack because I know that feels comfortable. That's me. It's my identity. I've always been in lack. Well, except when I made a lot of money, but I've always been in lack. Do you see how our mind plays those tricks on us? And how can we really come in here then and change that? We have to sort of persuade our subconscious to something a little better. So we can't go from I'm in lack to I'm in abundance. We have to create beliefs to bridge the way between what we used to be and what we want to be. And it has to be paved with little belief changes. I call them belief ladders. So if you start out from, I'm in lack, I've never got enough, I'm poor, I haven't got enough money, or whatever version of it is, for you, I haven't got enough resources, I haven't got enough friends, you pick whatever you want, you have to find a slightly better feeling thought, but one that your emotional body can stand behind, if I can say it like that. So instead of saying, I'm in overflow, which is just completely unbelievable, till you've got proof of it, then you have to be willing to just believe perhaps a little bit of it. So something that would support me in believing in even more overflow is when I sow my flowers and I go to my flower garden and I pick my flowers, I've got some sorts that the more you pick, the more flowers I've got. And so when I go and pick them, can you see how, oh, I'm in overflow? Because the more I pick, the more they come up. So that would be like something I could do to support this idea and calm down my subconscious and start introducing the idea that, well, actually, if if flowers beget flowers, maybe money begets money. Maybe actually there would be a way, right? And you just start opening up to the whole thing. Oh, actually, if I do want to go on that cruise on the Mediterranean, well, what would that look like? How? How could I do that? And then, of course, we never know all of the how, but we just need to take one tiny action step towards it. Like for me, it was sowing the flowers. So if you want to go on a Mediterranean cruise and you tell yourself, I can't afford it, well, how could you get one step closer? Really, how could you? So remember, we're trying to let go. We're letting go of that idea that we have to hold it together, that we have to control things, right? If not, we will fall apart. So what action steps could you take towards your Mediterranean cruise without you falling apart? What would be possible? And I like to be really inspired because inspiration, when I'm really inspired, my inspiration is louder than my doubt, if you see what I mean. So I'm more tuned in to the possibility. So if I'm looking at the brochures of the cruise, I don't want to go on a cruise ever, but this is just an example because it's tangible. So if I'm looking at the cruises available, getting more information about them, perhaps putting down a deposit, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. But really how you shift into the new identity is to let go here of the idea that you need to know exactly how and start experimenting with taking one step. So what if you put down a deposit for that trip without knowing how you could pay for the rest? Then what? Oh, well, then I would lose that money, wouldn't I? And then where would I be? I would have lost that money. That's again the mind reverting to the negative. It's reverting to the idea, this feels safe. I know the situation. I can identify with it. It's me. It could just as well be thinking positive. Oh, I wonder what I could do to make the next payment and the next and the next. Do you see what I mean? Both are options, but we find it safer to focus on the negative because that's how we've been functioning. And it really takes a concerted effort to say, I'm going to feel so uncomfortable. I'm going to feel so uncertain. I'm going to be in this discomfort zone by putting down the deposit and not knowing how it's going to play out. And then I'm really going to challenge you because now I want you to imagine horror of horror that you weren't able to make the next payment and you would lose that money. Worst case scenario, then what? You've lost the money, you haven't got your cruise. Just goes to prove you can't let go. You are in lack. You cannot afford it, right? You have proved yourself right. Oh, that feels good. I'm right. No, I'm just joking. But really, when you think of it, if you could ground yourself in that new identity of a person who, of course, goes on a cruise, but who is also perfectly willing to pay on her way to be that person, that abundant person. On my way from being in lack to abundance, I'm willing to lose money. It sounds really bizarre, doesn't it? But what if you were willing to lose that deposit in your journey to becoming that person who can go on all the cruises she wants? What if this was a moment where you learned, oh, I put down the deposit and I didn't take the next step. I left it there. I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball before I had proof that I'm an abundant person. So if you can see how this works is you took the first step and then things went wrong. You might make it mean, yeah, I was proven right, I'm just not abundant. But what if you had actually managed to make the next payment? Then where would your belief be? It would be like, oh, this might work. This might actually work. And now your negative bias is sort of in neutral because you're thinking, oh, this might just work. And then if you lose your money then, I don't think you're willing to, right? Because now you've got a little bit of proof that actually you are transforming, that actually it is working. So I think that you're going to be super motivated to find the money for that next payment. I think you will be willing to get out of your comfort zone. I think you'd be willing to ask for help. I think you'd be willing to explore all the possibilities, don't you? And the more you have invested in it, the closer you are to your goal, the more you step up to the situation, the more you become that person who is abundant. Do you see? But that leaves us with that first step, doesn't it? Because how can you take the first step? Because you're not yet in your new identity. So you're feeling the discomfort, you're feeling the anxiety, you're feeling all of that. And that doesn't feel nice. You prefer to be in certainty, right? Rather safe than sorry. Rather safe than sorry. No, I would rather be sorry than be safe if it meant that I couldn't change and go where I want to go. I would rather be sorry having attempted it. And you are free not to agree with me. You really are free. But this is really, in positive psychology, when we study those people who thrive, they are willing to take risk. And they are willing to have some skin in the game and to lose it. Yes, Tanya, I love it. I love it. Yes. So if you want to let go of being the good girl, then you have to create a tangible thing that you can do. Instead of making a deposit for a cruise, what could you do that would really disrupt the pattern of good girl? What could be one step? I like to play with the idea of disappointing people, but I'm extreme, right? But you don't have to do anything as extreme, but it's really interesting to play with the thought, what if I said I would cook Sunday lunch and then I didn't? Like that's taking risk too, isn't it? I talk about money because it's so tangible, and when we talk about feelings, it's a lot less tangible. But would you be willing to feel the discomfort, feeling nervous, feeling perhaps even anxious, to do something that would sort of, boom, break the pattern of being the good girl? Less people pleasing. Woo, woo, woo. Wow, explosion, yes. Imagine, imagine. And what if you could trust yourself not to fall apart? That's why we want to bring in the worst case scenario. We always want to be aware of what it is we're fearing. So I'll go back to my deposit for the cruise example. So worst case scenario is that I make almost all the payments, but then I default and I don't get to go on my cruise and I lose the money. Shock and horror. So I'm okay with that, but you might not be. And it's so interesting, if you are not willing to experience that, then please don't attempt any of it. Because when we want to experience discomfort, we don't want to go into full-on panic, some of us. When we go into panic, we could self-sabotage, or we could actually stand up to the situation. Like, there are two possibilities and everything in between. When we get to that point where things get really, really hard, we could stand up and be measured, or we could fall apart, or anything in between. And now you can start thinking about, oh, I really don't like this worst case scenario where I lose both the cruise and the money. What can I put in place to support me in that? What are the things I could already be doing or thinking or whatever? What are those things? And when we have got a challenge, we really step up to it, don't we? We really do. Most of us manage admirably, perhaps not on our own. Perhaps we need to ask for help. Perhaps we will have to swallow our pride. There will be something uncomfortable. But really, if you could trust yourself to be able to handle anything, then you could let go. So maybe you have been telling yourself that you really can't handle a lot. Maybe part of your identity is, oh, I can't do discomfort. I really can't. I remember my dad, bless him, like there was no way that he would ever get uncomfortable, ever. That was just not his thing. Physically uncomfortable, mentally uncomfortable. So he was able to shut the world out. He was able to never move. And his world got to be so, so small because he could not be uncomfortable. I really don't want to be like that. I practice discomfort in sometimes huge doses. That's for me, that might not be for you, but maybe you want to just practice with a few things. So if you want to be less people-pleasing at work, maybe you want to just put out a few feelers, see how it goes. When you're experimenting with this, just with a little, like, manageable amount of discomfort, try it out. You're building that identity change all the way. Because the thing is, we can't transform only through working on our mind and emotions. We have to actually take it out into real life. That's the only way that we can create the evidence that we crave that what we're doing is working. We want to hear, see, feel, taste, and smell it for it to be real. When we've done that, then we've changed. That's what we in coaching call embodying. We've embodied now the new self. And we can't do that through our intellect only. We really have to go out there and take risk. Any change is risky. You can't predict all the outcomes. You can imagine the worst one and then decide, well, am I willing? Am I willing really to experience that? If I'm not willing to experience it, well, how far can I go? And how am I going to do that? Hope that makes sense. And that is really where coaching can be extremely useful, because when you have got a coach, then you are accompanied all the way through that process. You don't make any rash decisions, like you don't do anything you end up regretting. Before you take any action, you will know why you're taking it. And I think if you like your reasons for why you're taking that action, if you like those reasons, if you're conscious of them, and if you approve of them, well, then you can't regret it, can you? I know that, for instance, people say, well, why did you leave London? I used to live in London. I used to have a very cushy lifestyle, great money, great everything, and I left it. And I know why I left it, and I don't regret it. Because I know why it was a conscious decision, and I'm so grateful for everything else I got in the bargain. So your first hurdle is taking that first action step. That's really the thing to overcome. And then you have to keep stepping up, stepping up, stepping up as you evolve. And that's why having somebody at your side is really, really useful. Friends are great. But if you don't want a life coach and you want to rely on your friends, make sure that they are not the ones who will sort of comfort you when you run home with your tail between your legs. Make sure they are the ones who will tell you the truth, even when the truth is really uncomfortable. Can you imagine having a friend that says, oh, you said you're going to go on a cruise. You made your first deposit. Now you have to really become uncomfortable. You have to ask people to lend you money to make your second payment or something like that. I'm just making this up, but that kind of friend is not always readily available, if you see what I mean, because a friend would say, oh, poor you, I'm so sorry for you. Oh, that's dreadful. You can't make the second payment. Oh, that's so rough. So, of course, they mean well, but really, in your transformation, they are not ideal. And that's okay, right? It is okay. You can have lots of different kinds of friends. I value the friends who will tell me when I am lying to myself, right? When I'm telling myself stories. So let me just recap what we've been through. We have seen, can't even see my own screen, that holding it all together instead of letting go is a coping mechanism. Thank you very much. It has kept you alive. To let go of an identity that no longer serves you, you must first create an intentional one that you can work towards. If you don't, you could just fall apart. You really could. Anchoring into your new identity will create a feeling of safety. And that is precious. So keeping things to remind you of the new person you are becoming. I'm that abundant person who's going on a cruise. Keep reminding yourself. When you keep reminding yourself, this is where I'm headed, you start seeing opportunities to support you in going in that direction that you wouldn't be seeing if you were in the lack focus. Take stock. Who do you believe yourself to be? That's your first tool. Awareness, right? We're creating awareness around your current self. What are your thoughts that you are aware of? And what are your current feelings? What is your go-to feeling? How do you often feel? You create awareness around all of that. Then who do you want to be? You create your intentional self. You think about, well, what thoughts would I need to be thinking in my abundant self? Of course I can go on a cruise. Let me make the first payment. That's how you will need to be thinking. And then you'll need to take some action so that you can persuade your subconscious that, yeah, this is our new self. It is safe. Come along with me. Look, I made the first payment. In your emotional body, this can create, on the way there, a lot of undesirable emotions. But what if that was okay? What if you could just go ahead and feel them and not make them mean that you have failed? What if just make them mean that you're on your way? And the sooner you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, the sooner you bridge that gap, the sooner you'll get into the comfortable emotions. So don't stay here too long. Don't draw it out by, oh, shall I take the step? Shall I not take the step? Shall I take the, no, I don't know, right? Highly successful people, they decide and then they commit. They don't stay in confusion for a long time. So what would support you in being that person? What could support you? Think about it. Oh, I want to be that person who feels abundant. What could support me? Oh, maybe I could actually put in place a way to track how I spend my money. Maybe that would be useful. Maybe I could make a budget. Maybe I could ask somebody who's really good at his or her money to help me make a budget. Maybe I could just sort of plan things out. Maybe I could start saving up, right? What would support you? And what could you let go of? Maybe you could let go of the over shopping, overspending. Maybe you can start being really conscious about how you spend your money, how you save your money, how you invest your money, all of that. Maybe you can dial up the volume of that. How can you support yourself in changing what you think? You can do those thought ladders where you change little by little. Like you make sure that you can actually believe the thought you're thinking. Like if I think the thought, I'm going to win the lottery, and that will take me out of all my problems, I find that really hard to believe. So there's no point in trying to believe it. I need something I would call more realistic. So look at how you could start doing that. And then in your emotional body, how can I start feeling safe and abundant? How does it feel being abundant? What are the feelings in my body? Maybe your shoulders drop, right? Notice, how do I actually feel? Or maybe my stomach just sort of feels all yummy. Like, maybe there's a great big space in my mind, in my brain. So I hope that has given you some ideas of how you can start working on changing your identity. Remember, there are 3 parts to your identity you have to be working with. All of them if you want to create lasting change. Of course, you can make a few changes just like superficially. Thank you for the hearts. And that could motivate you to make even more. So let's not discount that. But really, if you want to be that person who goes on a cruise or any other great plans you've got, really, you have to change who you believe yourself to be. If you knew yourself to be already the person who is abundant, who goes on cruises, you would be doing it. So you're welcome. You're welcome. But if it feels supportive of you, please grab one of my life audit sessions where we go into what all of this would look like to you. We go into your self-concept, and I will let you know how you can up-level it, how you can change it so that you can have or be or do what it is you want. So it's step by step we do that. It takes a whole hour. The session is free. I will enjoy meeting you. So please don't think you are indebted to me. At the end of the session, if I see that I can help you, support you in my one-to-one coaching, I will suggest it. If that doesn't appeal to you, you are free to say no, thank you. So you'd be practicing your no longer people-pleasing, right? You can practice that on me. But I really would invite you to explore what it could look like and how it would help you. So if you've got any questions on that, let me know. If you're watching the replay, the link will be in the comment box below this video. If you're on my email list, and I can't see why you wouldn't be there, you will also have a link sent to you via email. So thank you very much for joining. I shall stop the recording, and if it feels good to you, we can stay on a little bit here and chat between ourselves. So thank you for listening. Take care. Bye for now.